Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today in the Ground Pounder series, we're going to show a little bit more about tarps and ways to set up shelters type deal. Now, recently I did a video talking about my old butt pack and using the strap to carry it. And it went over well, and I got thinking that, and I have mentioned in several videos, that back in the day, the way I carried my gear was I did it in a way where I had a U.S. Army belt, a pair of H harnesses, and then I had a butt pack hooked to the H harness up high and one down low. This left a gap about that big between them where the poncho shelter system went into. And then on the outside I had a couple of ammo pouches on the top one, and on the bottom belt I had a pair of canteens. And I thought, you know, for today's video, I'll do that. I will assemble that set and show you how I carried back in the day. But I only have one butt pack, and so I decided to swing by and pick up another butt pack. And so I went by my local surplus place, Kaufmanns, which you've heard me mention many, many times. And now I'll have their name down in the description box. And I came in, I said I need a butt pack and an H harness. I already got a belt and another butt pack. And she said, I'm sorry, the butt pack's dried up 10 years ago. What? Butt packs were everywhere back in the day. Yeah, she said, but they've dried up. I haven't seen a box full of them in 10 years. So we looked around all that surplus. I was hoping I'd just walk by and spot one, and then I couldn't. I said, okay, well, I'll go look on eBay. And when I brought them up on eBay, I was utterly shocked at the price. A Chinese knockoff is $40, and some of the really nice, pristine ones are $70 on eBay, with the cheap ones running in the $25 range. Guys, I am flabbergasted. These were $5 bags for most of my life, and now they've become collector's items. So I apologize if I was, you know, leading you down an expensive path. I did not realize that. So we're going to be shifting gears. We're now going to be talking about gear that's available now, whenever I can find and make sure of it, and how to do things with it. Some tips and tricks and how to do ground pounder stuff with what's available now in surplus. And with that, I went down to Kaufmanns, and I've already got like 6 of these. In a video not long ago, you saw me, I was doing my walk around, and I found another one of those military tarps, and I just couldn't resist it because they're such good deals. And so in here, inside my Sparrow Hawk right now, is 2 complete tarps, plus all the stakes and stuff needed to set it up. Now, I'm going to show you what you can do whenever you've got a piece of gear. Now, the focus on this today is, I mentioned in the video recently, I talked about my old Vietnam poncho that's vinyl, that's bulletproof. I said back in the day when I was camping with it, I had 2. One that was really, really good and one that was just crappy. And I used the crappy one as a ground cloth. That's what we're going to focus on today. Because in here, I have the 2 tarps. One is in really good shape and one is crappy as all get out. So if you find in surplus at a sale or something like that, you happen to find a tarp that's in really, really good shape, but what if you find one that is not in really? This one is one you've seen in my videos, and those that have followed my channel for a while remember that over last year or something, I set up this one over my hammock in a hurry for a rain shelter, and it leaked like a sieve, and I said, Blackie can screw up too. It has since been marked. This is a ground cloth now because it's got a lot of holes in it. So let's say you're going to a surplus thing, or your buddy's got some gear, you find it at a garage sale or an antique thrift store or whatever, and you hold it up and there's a lot of holes in it, and there's a lot of, it probably ain't gonna hold water well. This makes a good ground cloth. This makes a good leaf tick. This makes a lot of things. So it has use, just not as a tarp anymore. This can be a really great piece of gear, because it is not a tarp anymore, because it won't hold water anymore. Now I don't have problems sitting it down on the ground and sitting on it, you know, to keep the bugs off of me and the dirt off of me and everything else. This works well for that. And then I've also got one I just picked up and you saw down there at the surplus place. These tarps are going for $25 a piece right now, and they've got a bunch of them down there at Kaufmanns surplus. So again, down there in the description, I'll put their contact information. But if you're looking for a tarp, this is the way to go. Now these are surplus. They may be okay, they may have some flaws in them, and a lot of times little duct tape, patch here, patch there, will get them right back in service. Okay? But if you'll call up the ladies, tell them I sent you, and say I'm looking for one that's got the fewest holes if possible, please. They'll hand select, they'll hold it up and look for you, not just grab it loose out of the box. And therefore you get a better chance of getting one that's easily repairable, if not no holes in it. Okay? Now, what we're going to talk about is how these can work together, because these can hook together and become one unit where two tarps can lock together. So I'm going to set this up in a configuration that you're not used to. Most times when you hook the two together, you just form a bigger tent like this, where I'd have one tarp to do this to make a pup tent. I can make two and make a big shelter half like tent that's big enough for 2 or 3 guys to sleep in. But one of my favorite configurations, back with my poncho that I talked about, is one that's a little different, and let me show you that one right quick. It has distinct advantages for a single person going to be setting up a base camp and going to be here for several days. Let me show you that one. Okay, what you see here is what I've done is I've set up a ridge line, and then I've run the good tarp across and staked it out as a classic, just a little bitty hooch, you know, a little small low tent. But as you can see in there, I've snapped that crappy tarp along one edge. That is going to give me an additional thing. One, it gives me a back wall where I can lift up that back end with some sticks and therefore get a taller back wall. So let me do that right quick and I'll be right with you. Okay, you can see here where I've taken 2 just random sticks off the ground and hooked to my guy lines. That makes a back wall. Now notice that makes almost a flat roof. This is not a configuration for rain. This little mist, a little whatever, yeah, you're fine. But any kind of real rain, I'd want to drop that back down to shed water off of there. What this is going to do is give me a whole lot of back wall to sit up. See, so I can easily sit up not just in the center, but this whole section here. And then this section off to this side over here, it's going to be where my gear and stuff like that. So by hooking this crappy tarp up to this, I've got a ground cloth that I can sit on, do my gear on, etc., sit up in. And I can, most importantly, that ground cloth can be turned into a leaf tip. Let me show you how we would do that right quick. Okay, first off, here I am sitting in it. This gives me room, instead of just being right here at the very peak, I've got a much bigger area to sit in. I can have my fire right out here to be able to cook and etc. And I've got a back wall here is a windbreak or whatever in the winter or the fall, something like that, or even a sun break in the summertime. By having this high peak like this, I've got more additional room and I can hang stuff off of my ridge line right here. In case of storm, I can just grab these and move them out of the way and drop it back down. So you set it up to begin with in the standard slope. Then you add the sticks. That way if suddenly a thunderstorm comes up, I can pull back from the wall a little bit, pull this down and drop this down and let water shed off. It also helps protect me from water coming underneath. Even though this tarp does not work well as a tarp anymore, it will prevent a lot of mud, water, moisture from getting to me. So it acts kind of like a ground, it is a ground cloth, but as a barrier. I'll clean this section out right through here for my bed, and I will put a layer of leaves, a good bed of leaves onto it. I can also take this and fold this over a pile of leaves. So there's a pile of leaves, and then this folds over in half. Like this. To form a bed. So if I have leaves underneath, this is helping to hold it. Then I put a layer of leaves and pine straw and fold this back over the top. Now I'm going to be pretty sure I'm going to be dry, because the two layers of the tarp separated by a space should pretty much guarantee I'm going to be dry if the ground starts to get a little sodden during the night. I've got a back wall up here to shield me for rain and stuff coming this way, and I've got a higher lift. Again, all I got to do to drop it down is that. See? Real simple. It's a configuration that has served me quite well many times. So, it's a simple configuration. All it is a ridge line, your tarp, whichever one's the most waterproof tarp, and then some other wore out poncho, wore out other tarp, whatever, turned into a back wall and turned into a leaf tick into it. It can also be opened up to give you a bigger working area to get you out of the bugs and etc. Now I use this many times, but I typically use this for a base of operations where it's not necessarily going to be bad weather, but if it was coming up and I hadn't expected it, remember I'm down here close to Gulf, all I had to do is pull out those two sticks and it's back to the classic shed water off of it. See? And if I was going to be here for several days, along this back edge around here, I would go ahead and cut me a little trench to drain water off. So as that water comes off, it drains away from me. I would ditch all the way around. They frown upon that today because of leave no trace. But in my day, we would rather fill in a hole than get wet. And so if it was going to be heavy downpours, I would already have a little trench going all the way around and then flowing down with an outlet flowing downhill. So if this area, relatively flat around me, got sodden with water and that water was starting to puddle up, I wanted it to run away from me. Because I might be, this is my only cover, so to speak, you know what I mean? Could you do this with ponchos? Originally I did this with ponchos, you know, to give me a little bit more room. Because a poncho is not as big as these tarps are. And so I wanted a little bit more head space in there. I didn't want to have to crawl in on my belly to sleep. I want to be able to sit up and yet have a functional area. I could do my job. I could process food for eating. I could put my gear and open my gear out a little bit to be able to have access to it. That's where I came up with doing this. Usually utilizing one piece of gear that wasn't that great and another piece of gear that was, but they would hook together. Hope this gives you some ideas, guys. Again, Kaufmanns has these tarps right now, which is Marine Corps type tarp, where it's desert tan on one side and the camouflage on the other, and they're 25 bucks a piece right now. And if you'll call the ladies and tell them Blackie sent me, they'll hand select and try to find one with the fewest holes possible for you. Guys, thank you very much for your support, and there will be more videos coming up in the Ground Pounder series very soon. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.